Alrighty. Sorry, guys. Quick catch up on my emails. Which is fucking never
Not
ending.
the time for it.
No, no, it's a bit like that. All right. So this podcast is episode 9. Today we're going to dive into creating change. All right, with Tyler and challenged youth and teens. So, quick intro with this episode and what we're going to cover. Today we're diving into the program that Tyler leads specifically to work with behavioral challenge teens and kids. So working with the younger generation, getting them into fitness and training and giving them a little bit more purpose, and then also developing a relationship and trust where we can now start to improve elements that we feel will set them up for success interacting with the outside world. So help them deal with things at school, help them deal with things at home, and help them have the tools to be able to actually process and improve on things throughout their life. The first thing we kind of want to start with is Tyler. So Tyler's going to give us a quick intro on himself, his experiences, and his goals and what he likes to achieve with the kids in the program.
Yeah. Wow. Great start. I guess where we look at starting with a lot of this stuff is my personal experience, and this is where it becomes super relatable to a lot of kids. A lot of the senses as a kid, I struggled quite heavily with, I guess, let's say symptoms, but a condition called floppy child syndrome. So it's what I'm diagnosed with alongside a bunch of other things. But it's not saying that we use this condition as a form of like excuse and to draw away the fact that I don't need to try very hard or do things as well as others. The main thing that this condition draws, and the one thing that my mum really was very adamant on, was, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, you just learn differently. The condition, a bit about it, floppy child syndrome, is mostly to do with hand-eye coordination and the ability to feel my fingers. I have very little, if not no, feeling in my fingers, which just means that fine motor skills is very challenging. So that's one part of the condition. A lot of it has to do with learning difficulties as well. I don't learn as well from a theoretical point of view, which all school is theoretical, which is generally like the annoying part about school for someone like myself, where I didn't learn if the teacher was like, write this down, remember it, and then we'll be tested on it. No chance I was going to do well at that. So I had to build and create a way to learn that was good for me. Mum identified early that I pick up well from copying others. And it was like regurgitated knowledge. Chauffeur knowledge is what they call it. So my brother would do something, I would copy it, I would immediately be able to do it as good as he could. And that's purely where I found my skill of learning. So when I research and learn, I don't do well with reading textbooks. I can listen to audio, which is fine. Like the audio sensory portion of it is good, but textbooks and then reading a textbook and then understanding it just doesn't work. Words fly off the screen. It's not working for me.
So easiest way to get you stronger is find 4 people who are stronger than you and make you train with them.
Exactly. And that's one of the things. It's probably like one of the best ways is imitation. Imitation's a way that I learn. Also, watching others and just like very visual. So like looking at others, what are they doing? Ooh, that's an interesting setup point. Then when they're talking about it too, if they're like explaining the way they do things, then it's even easier. I absorb the information. So seminars are really good for me. Hands-on stuff is really great. And like I said, like visualization and audio is good, but theoretical, no chance. And my hands and fingers just weren't as good as what other kids were. Like to the point where like crossing the road as a kid, maybe 5-6 years old, I couldn't even hold my mum's hand. Like I would have my entire hand gripped around her finger. My mum has big fingers too, but my hands were so weak that I couldn't grab onto her. So I had to do a lot of stuff in development for that. And a lot of the stuff I had to do these days, I would have been fast tracked with tablets and information and internet and all that stuff. But back when I was a kid, it wasn't the same. We didn't have access to all this stuff. So some of the things I had to do was a bit different. So that's a bit about myself and where like my learning difficulties lied, and which is where one of the ways that I can relate to all these kids. I was also very introverted as a kid and a massive gamer. I love sports, and that was the number one thing I wanted to do, but all of my family members were not interested in sports. They would sit inside, they would be very good at like school, so they would do lots of study. My oldest brother used to read JavaScript and C++ and all this stuff, and he used to teach himself how to program and build computers. So like, as a family, there's 4 of us. If 3 of them are inside and introverted and playing video games on computers and want you to be included, you're generally going to want to do that too. But I was still very much sport driven. I was outside kicking the football around by myself. I used to play rugby.
And it was more AFL, wasn't it?
AFL, yeah. I played rugby, AFL, a bit of both, but AFL was my main focus. But like, I was really big on like playing by myself. I used to like create fantasy games of football. I used to tackle myself. How did that work? I don't know. But I was lonely, but I really wanted to play sport. So I didn't let that be an excuse. And I begged my mum for years, please let me play a team sport. Please let me play a team sport. Eventually, when I was 11, she was like, hey, like AFL is actually really cheap in your area. Like we signed up for a team. It was like $150. You got a shirt, you got your AFL pants, you got your socks, and that's a year's registration. And for my mum, 4 kids, single mum, like that was doable. It was like, okay, that's not a big reach, a financial, and the field I played at was a couple minutes away. So I was blessed that was an opportunity I had.
Barrier to entry was lower.
It was low, yeah, and that allowed me to start my fitness journey. But one of the things about that is like I was obviously instantly invested because I was like, finally, I get to do what I've been begging for. Like I'm gonna go all in. So I used to have a home gym. I used to ask for home gym stuff for home. I used to for my birthdays, for Easter, I never got chocolate. I never got lollies or anything like that. I always got like protein bars and like tuna cans and like very like typical like, you know, preteen, like growing boy, like I get a gym scene kind of look. So that was really good for me. And like that kind of helped take me away from where my family was going and pushed me into more of an extrovert, to being around lots of
more
adults.
of a physical lifestyle. Yeah.
Exactly. And why I bring this up and why this is important is because one of the things I struggle with the most is information. Because I didn't have access to someone who knew what they were doing. Like my mum, even though, like, bless her, she used to be like, I buy skim milk because it's healthier than full cream milk. And it's like I believe that, you know, that was my source of knowledge. And like, it's not whether it's healthier or not, but it's just a choice based on your goals. Like if you want the full fat milk, it's okay. Like even Coca-Cola, this is a big one, very controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. She used to demonize Coca-Cola, like full strength Coke. Like it's so bad for you. Rots your teeth. It's full of sugar. There's nothing good about it.
Used to have cocaine in it.
It used to have, yeah, that's another one. It used to be green, has cocaine. Anything black is bad. But it's like, then like, you know, I guess I'm with my current coach now, Jazz. She's just like, hey, like you've got 500 calories of carbohydrates. Get it any way you want. Coke's an easy carb source. Lots of sugar. Like, you know, easy to consume. For someone like me who struggles to eat enough, like, I'm like, that's a good thing. So my information sources weren't there. I didn't have anyone to lean off. None of my siblings did sport. None of my friends did sport. Like, I didn't have any idols or anyone to look at. There wasn't much on the internet at the time. Like, YouTube was only just starting. And like, I had to look on bodybuilding.com forums. I had to read their posts. So all of my information was very fixed to one area.
Okay, well, I want to fast forward a little bit here because this story is, Tyler's fitness journey is relatively long, but but the main thing is he did start with AFL, which isn't necessarily a strength sport. He also did CrossFit, which is a little bit more hybrid, so you're getting all elements fitness. Yeah. And then there was an aha moment, which Tyler moved into powerlifting specifically, and then that also became what you used for your clients, so working with teens and kids. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? What was that aha moment for you? Was there a specific kid that you had a breakthrough with one of your clients? Was there something with yourself that you had a breakthrough with?
Lots to digress here, I guess, to keep it short and sweet. To finish off what I was saying with the information stuff is that's probably one of the biggest issues I had growing up. Is I lacked information. I lacked guidance. I didn't have what these kids have with me, which was someone who's done it before, someone who's gone through what they're going through, someone who's been in their shoes and like, you know, I really suck at sport. I'm really bad at running. I'm really bad at lifting. My technique sucks. I don't even know where to start. Like, here's a joke. I used to eat wholemeal bread with peanut butter because this guy on bodybuilding.com recommended that was like his go-to food. I didn't know anything about macros or calories or anything like that. I just ate a shit ton of bread.
You were like, he's jacked. I'm
He's
gonna
jacked.
do that, yeah.
He's way too jacked, right? So like now I'm like, oh, he didn't.
And those, like your comments just then, we still have that. Like every time I talk with my client, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. So you had less information, but you still have the same problem.
Exactly.
As where with our clients, a lot of clients that we work with now, they've got all the information in the world, and they still don't know where to start.
Yeah, they've got ChatGPT that can tell them and write them programs. They've got YouTubers and influencers who can educate them and tell them like best practices based on science and literature. Like I had none of this. So like all of my stuff was experimental. So coming back to the aha moment, it's more, it started as an aha, and it's more of an aha moment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you idiot. You should have known this.
Well, I started powerlifting in 2020, and it was like an offset thing during COVID. I was about to join the military, and this was when like there was like no live CrossFit events and stuff like that. So all these years of training, at this point it was like 7 years of CrossFit. Like I couldn't do anything with the sport anymore because like technically I thought that at that point the world might end, right?
I think everyone did.
Yeah, life as we know it was
We
shutting
thought
down.
the zombie apocalypse was upon us.
That's what I mean. So like from my
So
perspective,
everyone was running.
I just didn't know where to go from there. So it's like what I've been doing and focusing on, the purpose I've been living by, isn't available anymore. So I went through two different pathways. I went through Olympic lifting and powerlifting. So I did both, which is crazy. I don't know why I did both, but I did both. So I did like an on-off thing where it's like Monday was cleans and accessories. Tuesday was like, bench and deadlifts. Wednesday was squats. Thursday was snatch work. Friday. So I did a bit of both to see which one I liked more because I knew I liked lifting. And based on my CrossFit, which was one of the good things about CrossFit, is I got to try everything. Running was great. Lifting was great. Everything else was average. So that's where I knew I excelled. And I was like, well, why not put a little bit more marbles into this little thing that I'm excelling? So I did put some more marbles in it. I was like, well, okay, like I'm actually making some progression. I like this. It's enjoy it. It's fun.
Did you have specific things that you, like metrics that you were looking for? Like, was this enjoyable? Was it easy to set up? Was it easy to track? Like, were there specific, you talk about what you geared your training towards. Was there specific things that these movements had to create, like do for you? And was that a bit of a checklist that you'd run through?
I think it was almost like, not necessarily like what the movements did for me. I feel like it was more who I surrounded myself with at the time. Because it's like, what did they value? They valued strength. They valued being strong. And that's why, like, for me, it was a bit easier because it's like I valued it too, but because they valued it as well, it made it easier to do because it's like you've got these two people who now value the same thing and they're pushing each other. They're about the same strength level. So like you've got this internal competition, but you also want each other to succeed. So then it just felt easy to then just commit to. And I committed to it throughout my entire military career because it was the most accessible thing at the time. CrossFit was a bit like inaccessible because like they had all the facility for it, but they didn't allow for it, which made no sense, right? But I was
a bit different now.
It is a bit, because now it's an official sport, and funnily enough, I won the first year they ran CrossFit for the army. I was the fittest soldier, and it wasn't very hard because like most of them didn't do it very properly, and I just came in and did it.
You're like the Australian Andrew Hiller.
Yeah, well there you go. Yeah, but like back to the point, I did all this. Came out of the military, and the injuries I sustained from the military, unfortunately, made it more of an aha moment where it was like I couldn't do CrossFit the way I wanted to do it. There was too much pain, too many variables, too many things that I was just like restricting myself, or it was causing too much harm. Whereas I found that strength training was a lot more accessible. I could take more time on it, and it worked better with my injuries. So that for me kind of, I didn't choose strength training, it chose me towards the end. So a couple of different things kind of filtered me into that direction.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of leading this towards the kids that you work with, because you have experience in all elements of coaching and fitness, what made you gear more of the powerlifting towards these kids? Like, what did you see? We talk about that aha moment. What did you see that powerlifting was doing for the kids and teens that some of the other training modalities weren't?
I think it starts with complexity. Like I think complexity is one of the biggest things that limit the amount of people that try something. I think CrossFit's amazing because it allows you to try so many different things. And if anything, it could be the place you start people with to find out what they truly enjoy. However, one of the issues with CrossFit is because it's so complex and there's so many things going on, it's really hard to train a new individual, especially someone who is young, a youth athlete or a teen or a child, on how to do CrossFit when a lot of the times they don't actually understand how to move properly themselves. So you've got a kid who's like uncoordinated, unconfident, maybe never really excelled in school sports or like never gone to sports day, never gone to a swimming carnival. Now you're putting him in a situation where you're exposing weaknesses mainly like through conditioning.
Every day,
yeah. It's not a great starting point for a lot of young males, especially males, because males a lot of the time we want to feel competent against our peers, which is like the whole thing we used to talk about where like you do one rope climb, I want to do two. Whereas girls are very much happy to just do the rope climb.
They're about being competent.
Yeah.
So they don't need to be the best at anything. It's where like men have a natural desire to outcompete each other.
And that's obviously not all women, all men, but it's just what we commonly see. Like women just want to do the movement.
I want to be able to do a rope climb.
Yeah.
And then, for men, it's like, I want to be able to do 5 rope climbs faster than him.
Yeah. I want to beat him in the rope climb workout or whatever. So
look at Cam Gray's post today. It's like, I challenge everyone to do 30 on, 30 off, max bar facing burpees until you hit 100 reps.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a natural thing for men to compete.
And that's it, because it's just like, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, you're trying to find, not necessarily trying to find the alpha dog, but trying to like size up your competition, see who's who, what's what. And I feel like that can be off-putting in some cases, because if you aren't good at a lot of things already, you're like, well, what's the point of trying? Like, I can't run, I can't do gymnastics, I can't even hold my body weight on the rig. Like, it really limits the young athletes on what they can do. So when we see strength training, you don't have as much to worry about. You've got 3 main movements. You've got other movements outside that, but 3 main ones: squat, bench, deadlift. And in that case, like, they generally excel at 1. It's pretty like, it's like, so if you have 3 movements and they excel at 1, that means they're 33% competent at least, right? From the start. Whereas CrossFit, 150 movements, they excel at, 5. It's like 5% competent. It's like, from their mindset, they're already bought into the strength training, because they're like, I'm so good at deadlift. He's confirmed that I'm good at deadlift. I'm lifting relatively heavy. I've got people around me who are cheering me on. Like, damn, this is awesome. Like, this is addicting. And that's where I feel like the boys start to really enjoy it, because it's very, very unlikely that I find that someone isn't at least above average at one of the 3 movements. And I think that's where it buys in. And then the other side of it too is like the environment, like especially at Unbound here. I'm not sure about other facilities, but I know for a fact at Unbound, one of the things that I prioritize for these guys is to introduce them to the strong athletes, the Tristans, the Dominics, the Camerons, like the guys who already lift really heavy, because it gives them someone to look up to. But it's also
like the way I would define it, it's the guys that throw out the winch. So it's like, we talk about competing's normal, but it's not just, okay, I'm better than you. It's like, okay, I beat you on this, but come with me.
Yeah.
So it's like I need you there, because this was just as beneficial for me having you here pushing me as it was for me to get the feedback that I actually beat you. Exactly. It's less about the fact that I outlifted you, and it's more about the fact that I got more out of myself because you were there with me.
That's it. And like, one of the things I love doing, this is a personal favorite, is, let's say like, Michael, you're my client and you're going for a 3 RM deadlift, right? Like, this is pretty nerve-wracking for you, but you're excited to give it a crack because you've never done one before. And instead of just like, okay, let's go into it, like no music, we're in just like by ourselves doing the deadlift, I will literally go downstairs if I'm upstairs, or go around the gym, find a couple of people who are in the same kind of realm, strength training. And like, let's say your top lifters, you've got your Dominics, your Tristans, your Camerons. I grab those guys, I bring them over. They know of these guys. They're like, wow, they're really strong. I've seen them in the gym before lifting. They're all coming to cheer on me doing my lift. And in your head, you're like, I don't lift as much as them. Like you said, like, I'm comparing my weight to them. Like, wow, they're so much stronger. But they're coming over and encouraging me to do really well. That must mean I'm a part of the crowd, the part of the group. So like these kids get even more worked up. The success rate goes up because now you've got that.
You're also accountable to someone else.
Exactly.
So you're like, oh, they're watching. I want to impress them.
Yeah, and then as soon as they do it, regardless of the result, it's fist bumps, it's high fives, it's like, wow, you could have done a few more reps. Or if they don't achieve it, it's like, you'll get that next time. And then it takes away some of the stress from me as the coach, and it just applies it to the community. And then when we decide to finally achieve or try our first event, they go to the event, guess who's there? Tristan, Dominic, Cameron. Like these guys are still there. And now it's like, oh, I already know these dudes. I'm more confident, I'm more comfortable. And that just enhances their whole like process.
My head kind of quickly popped into like the social media realm there, where it's like that explains a lot of why everyone has to post their training, because they're seeking that.
Yeah.
So like that feedback that you're creating for those kids and that accountability, you'll notice people will just record their workouts every day and post it. And now it's like, I haven't closed my loop or actually completed my task until I've posted it to the world.
Yeah.
And the world's given me validation on the task I did.
Yeah.
It's validation is something that's going to need to be there at some point, and very few people have the ability to not have it.
Yeah.
Like your extremely disciplined athletes, like your elites, they have that. But majority of people don't.
No.
Majority of people aren't going to go and train for 3 years to go to the Olympics and no one fucking knows who they are, and they don't post every day or every morning.
No, exactly.
And then it's like, oh shit, how'd you get so good at swimming?
And that's what I mean. Like, okay, like these kids, most of them aren't on social media or aren't posting.
And you're giving them that live feedback.
That's it.
And it's like they're getting some validation from the boys that they're doing the right thing and they're moving in the right direction.
And obviously the longer they stay, the more that those boys become idols to them and the person they look up to. They're not going to go on Instagram and look up to the world champion powerlifter, because it's like, well, that guy's in America and unachievable. Like, these are people who are here right now doing exactly what I want to do, but better. How do I become them? I hang around them more. I talk to them. And like, these are, once again, young boys and teenagers between the ages of, I'd say 6 and 15. That's probably the range. Imagine, like, how many 9-year-olds do you know walking around the gym talking to adults? How many 9-year-olds do you know walking around talking to adults in general, period? And we've got Emmett, who that's what he does. Like, he's done 5 competitions now. And like the last competition, he was less concerned with his own performance and more concerned about cheering others on, the newer guys who haven't done as many. He's 9 and he's making these decisions. So it's like that's powerful.
Because he's seeing that. Like, you spoke about how you learn from observation.
Yeah.
It's the same for them. They're getting the opportunity now to observe how, Tyler's at an event and Tyler's competing, but there's 18 other people and he's prioritizing other people.
Yeah.
You don't, like, to be part of a group, you actually need to not prioritize yourself.
It's like conform to what the group is also doing. And
you're valuable if you put other people first.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying to, especially like the senior, I would say the senior guys who I train, the guys who are a bit more experienced, who have a bit bigger of a total, who are a bit more competitive. When I say to these guys, I'm like, hey, these are the things we value. We don't value 1RMs. We don't care about them. We value performance. So it's like, hey, you have 90% of your max, how many reps can you do? If you want to do something fun, do that. Like Dominic was a good example. Yesterday he did his current 1RM bench for 3 reps. He could have easily gone 2.5 kilos more and PR'd. Easily. But he doesn't value that because we don't value that. I'm like, I couldn't care less what your 1RM is unless we're in a testing phase or a competition. Because we can do a 1RM at a comp, but the biggest thing is a 1RM is super demoralizing. There's a high chance of failure. There's a high chance of risk. What's the point of taking it? Instead, if you feel really good, let's test ourselves by seeing how many we can do, what we can push ourselves to.
At a known weight that we can perform at.
Exactly. A known weight we can perform at, or a weight that we know is really challenging.
It also, because it removes, you think about like new loads are unknown. So there's that psychological element.
Exactly.
And you can remove that by being like, hey, I've benched 120 before, I'm going to AMRAP it.
And
it's still going to give you feedback where it's like, hey, I can recalibrate, I'm probably stronger.
Is this more of like an Olympic weightlifting tool where it's like, hey, instead of going to 58 that you failed, go back to 55 that you know and do 100 reps of 55. Obviously, it's not the same for powerlifting, but it's kind of similar where like, and that's what the environment we bring to not only the young boys, but to my senior athletes is hey, like, we don't value PRs unless it's scheduled or timed, or unless you feel extremely good. There's like a very certain like point, and that's obviously a bit broad, but from the majority of it, most of my athletes value doing lots of heavy reps, seeing how many they can do. We value going around and encouraging and supporting everyone, no matter what their strength level is.
It's interesting having this conversation with you, because these kids are very much exposed to a world where it's like, you first, you can be whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. Social media teaches them to prioritize themselves. There's not really, like, you don't really see anyone, if you just think about like posting in general, the reason I'm just using it as an analogy is we can all relate. Everyone just posts about themselves.
Yeah.
No one, like, it's not very often that someone will be in a group and they'll take photos of their friends and they'll be like, hey, I'm so happy I have all these friends.
Yeah.
The photo has to be about them.
Yeah.
And it has to be, I'm so happy I have all these friends.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like, this is a unique scenario where it's teaching them how to interact with society, and a lot of the values are built around being there for other people.
Yeah.
And then that favor gets returned.
Yeah, exactly.
Where now, when they are in a stress test scenario where you're testing a 3RM or whatever it is going to be, those people are showing up for them.
Yeah, and that's the lead from the front. Like, that's where it's like, hey, like, I know you're a senior athlete. Like, I know you can do great things, but like, we want these other kids or these other teenagers or these new athletes to do great things too, so that we can do even greater things. Because it's like, for me, like, when I'm at a competition, it's like, I don't think at all about myself. Like, even last comp, I forgot my warm-up until it was almost too late. I was like, oh shit, I've got to start warming up. Like, I'm actually up next. So in my head, I'm like, I want my guys to succeed. I want to support them. And sometimes I think maybe I shouldn't be involved in the competition. Maybe I need to step back more and be the coach only. And there's a time and place for that. I guess it really depends on the particular thing, but a lot of my athletes want me to compete because they want to see what I do as well and be supportive for me. And
it validates what you teach.
Exactly.
So you're teaching people to be stronger and you're getting stronger. So in their mind, it's like, it's trust. I trust what you tell me to do. It's
working for him. It's working for me. It must be working. And that's awesome. And like obviously, like I said to the guys, like I will 100% jump in with as many things as I can. I'll do the silly things with you guys that you want to do because I want to be a part of my own community. And like, you know, I lead from the front. And that's the big thing. Tristan always says, like, lead from the front, like be the example that you want them to display. So it's like, it's hard because it's like you said, like social media is so about posting about yourself. And that's something that I've actually really focused on trying to do the best that I can this year is I record a lot of my athletes and you'll see it on my social media. Like there'll be posts about me on there, like stories about my training. But a lot of it comes after my athletes training because my athletes training is more important. Like, and it's cool because it's like, wow, like Ty recorded my lift today and he posted it on social media. He posted it on his account for others to see. Like he's proud of me. And it's like, yes, I am. Like, but like, I also want them to see my training because I want the same thing. Like I want to be proud of myself. So it's like, I put it out there, I get to watch it. And because Instagram's great, like I don't have to keep it saved on my phone. Once I post it, it's saved on their archives. I can download it anytime.
It's in the cloud.
In the cloud. So you know, I'd lie because I'd lie if I said like I don't like the validation as well. I love it. I love the validation.
But it's understanding that. It's like I think the conversation breaks down when people go, I post for myself.
Yeah.
Like I post because I want this archive, as where it's like, but then you wouldn't make it public.
Exactly.
You post because you want validation, and you need to be clear on that because when it's not there, then you know what void you need to fill.
Yeah.
As where if you lie to yourself, this is where it becomes dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you're telling people what you think is socially accepted or politically correct, but it's not actually what you believe and it's not actually what you do.
No, and that's it. And that's the hard thing. It's like, yeah, it's like, can you maintain true to your morality? Like, are you able to display what you want others to display with you? Like, and if you're leading, which is the hard thing, it's like, and this is what I made a post about after the deadlift comp. It's like, do I actually know what I'm doing?
Like, mate, I'm like that all the time. I was talking to Caleb about it when we were, I was like, sometimes I write these programs and I'm like, I've got all these frameworks and protocols and things that I've like I use to put things together and get desired outcomes. And then when someone questions me on it, I'm like, fuck. Like,
do I know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
and it's like, and you just have a brain fart and you forget. But you know, if you were sitting there writing the program, you'd fucking nail it.
Yeah.
And you would get the desired outcome. But then I was like, but that's experience.
Yeah.
Like, experience is like you've learned by doing the thing and it's in here. But it's like, how do you get it from here into a structured format that you can now use to teach other people?
Yeah.
And there is a strat, like, I think everyone has that. Everyone has that where they question themselves, but you almost need to just do the thing and get a third party to come watch you and write down your steps.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, this is how Ty problem solves. Here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, and then that becomes your framework. But you can't write your own framework.
No, because that's biased. Because you're gonna avoid anything that, like, you're gonna leave out the things that you might actually need to genuinely work on, or like some of the things.
It's like a different role. You like end up taking on the hat of trying to write down, and then you're not actually going through the processes that you would normally go through.
Yeah, because you're trying to separate yourself from the situation, which is interesting because it's like bringing it back to the youth training and why I feel like strength training is just so accessible. And it really does come down to like the movement patterns aren't complex. They can be broken down and made simple. Whereas something like a snatch, even though it can be broken down, it's still not simple. Something like gymnastics work on the rig, like there's such a buy-in requirement. Like, this is the thing, like athletes need to be able to hold themselves. This is not a set standard, but this is just my standard. Athletes need to be able to hold themselves for 20 seconds on the rig before even attempting like some simple shape work. Because if they can't hold themselves for 20 seconds, how can I expect them to do 20 seconds of work, right? You can't jump up on the rig and do shapes if you have like 5 seconds of grip strength, you know, it's not going to last very long. So where do you start them from? The ground. But then that's not specific to what they're working on. So it's like, now you've got yourself into a position where like this poor athlete has to spend 3 months to just get on the rig. So,
Yeah.
Which is fine if that's your goal. But for strength,
But you need buy-in first.
You need buy-in
and
first.
buy-in first happens by giving quick results.
Quick results.
Quick
And
feedback.
How do you
loops.
give quick feedback?
You then build trust, then you tackle the longer things.
Exactly. Like, and Michael's big thing is like for new members is trying to get them to do a challenge or competition in the first 90 days because it's likely that they're going to stick around for a lot longer time because they have that confirmation and buy-in. So it's like,
man, I don't like even the protocols that I use for longevity, like my structures have completely changed. Where I used to be like, oh, I can't go and make these clients lose water weight and create all this rapid change because it's just going to create results that they desire that aren't going to be accurate and sustainable.
No.
As where now I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to help you lose 6 kilos in a week.
Yeah.
And then I explain and educate them on it and what it is, but I give them that fast feedback loop.
Yeah.
And then it's like, now they trust me.
Yeah.
Now they want more. Now we can have the conversation where
Like,
it's
hey,
like,
it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
We need to do it this way.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean.
you
So,
front load the results and then you've got them.
so whereas like a new client in the class setting, we've got 90 days to do that. A new client for me, I have between 45 and 60 minutes to do it. Because I need to convince them that what they're doing is actually going to
It's
make
better than being on an iPad.
better than on an iPad. It's going to make them happy and it's going to make them feel competent. So it's like, okay, how do I do that? And this is probably the part of the frameworks of how I do it.
Yeah. So what structures do you use? And then I suppose for most parents, they're going to want to know the safety side of things because there is a bit of a stigma around kids lifting where it's unsafe.
Yes.
I know for us, like scaling loads and supervising every session is huge, which is why we always say one-on-one.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily go, hey, just put them in a class or remote programming for these kids. We make sure we work one-on-one. Do you want to touch on that a bit more?
Yeah, 100%. I think framework starting it, there's a multitude of ways we can look at it and approach it. But the big thing is like we usually start uniquely with barbell work. So starting strength protocols, if you've read Starting Strength Volume 3 by Mark Rippleto, fantastic book. I'm not a big reader, listener, obviously, of course, audiobook, but it goes through a lot of stuff, but the framework that they apply is as easy as it needs to be because these guys, not only, they have 2 pathways of growth. And this is what I talk about with my athletes of why the kids are so impressive. Is one, they're growing, like physically growing. They're changing. They go through puberty. They're getting taller. They're getting like heavier. They're just they're just increasing. Adults already kind of are at the level they're at. Small increases, of course, but like it's not as drastic as a child. Like they're literally growing. So you've got this organism that's growing. So like half of my job is done. Like they're going to progress even if I don't program anything, because they're just getting stronger and bigger. Muscles are getting bigger, bones are getting bigger, ligaments are getting stronger, like because they're growing. So that's a positive for me, right?
Those feedback loops will be there without too much linear structure.
Exactly. They don't need to be as consistent as adults, and they'll still see progress as long as they
But
follow.
they do need to almost constantly recalibrate technique and position because their center of mass is changing, their coordination is changing.
Correct. And that's where the other side of it comes in play, whereas it's like we start with the main barbell movements. Normally it runs in a very simple process. 3 sets of 5 back squats, 3 sets of 5 bench press, sometimes more depending on the athlete, 1 set of 5 deadlifts. And how I approach this in a training sense is there's also then, once again, it splits into 2 pathways. If they're very young, so I'd say between the ages of 6 and 12, I won't start them on these specific warm-ups that are like very, very targeted towards specific issues.
Yeah.
Because that's boring, right? Once again, you're dealing with a young adult, even a child. They have very short attention spans. We need to give them instant feedback. The way I do that then is the other side, whereas their warm-ups are a bit more hypertrophy based. They're machines, super easy to warm up on, and they kind of imitate similar movement patterns that we're about to hit. So for example, squat, bench, deadlift, it'll be literally leg press, chest press, lat pull down. That's going to cover most of what I have to do. Obviously, you're leaving out things like hamstrings, you're leaving out, specific glute priming warm-ups and all this stuff, but like for the attention span, they love it.
It's interesting. I was talking to my client today about it, where a lot of what we do with him is we're tuning his body. All right. Now we don't need to buy him new knees. We don't need to upgrade anything. We can do that by basically controlling what we expose to and using adaptation to advantage. But we're tuning his body to operate better.
Yeah.
Running that protocol with kids, they don't understand it.
Well, they just don't care for it. Right?
No, like they just want to learn to use the body they have.
They want to swing on the ropes. They want to play with the echo bike. They want to like do these things. So if you keep them engaged, they don't want to do those things.
They want to interact with their environment.
Yeah.
As where, when you're an adult, you've interacted with your environment your whole life. So now it's just learning how to interact with it better.
Yeah.
And in a way that's more sustainable and isn't going to break you.
Yeah, and they normally want the results immediately. The adults, they want to do the thing. They know that like if they do the thing correctly, they get the results they desire. Whereas the kids, they're less about the results necessarily. They're more about how much engagement, how much fun they're having. Are they enjoying what they're doing? And this is the thing. Like when adults say to me, I hate Bulgarian split squats. My response, too bad, they're good for you. When a kid's like, I hate Bulgarian split squats, I'm like, cool, we're doing something else. Because if they hate it, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And like maybe later on, when they get a bit more mature and older, I'll explain to them the importance of the movement and why we're doing it. And then they understand because they've been doing it long enough. But for the really young ones, like if you give them something they hate and force them to do it, they're not going to want to come back because they're here for fun. Everything they do is trained. It has been trained into them that they need to enjoy what they do. They need to love what they do or they shouldn't do it. So it's like, because, they've got social media. They've got all these other outlets that just skip whatever they don't like, skip the ads. They don't want to watch that. I can just get my instant gratification. So we got to bring that into their training. And so once we do the barbell movements for a while as well, we've done squat, bench, deadlift, we start to identify small weaknesses. Which generally happens, right arms are stronger than less. Right legs are stronger than less. They don't have midline strength because they don't train their core.
They don't know how to extend through the back.
Exactly. They might be a little bit like, lopsided or whatever the case is. And this is where then we start adding maybe some specifics where instead I might change the barbell bench press, if it's an arm weakness, to a dumbbell bench press. Or it's they're very unstable when they unrack, same thing. It's just making small changes, but we don't make big changes to the movements. I'm not going from barbell bench press to plyometric push-ups. So I'm not changing it too much where they still they're familiar with the movement pattern, but it is different enough that it's going to give them and give me what they need. So that's where I kind of start with most kids, but the rep scheme stays relatively the same. As they start getting a bit more involved, some of them do end up coming more than just once, whether that's for personal training or, they come in for the gym for an open gym membership. In that case, the ones who do come in more often and do the open gym, I provide them with things to do on apps and whatever, so they can follow along. There's always videos, or it's always the things that they've already done.
You're providing structure.
Exactly. And they come and see me before they start the session. I give them some run through. I tell them to come get me if they need any help. So they've got that safety there. But also they've also, once again, drawing all the way back to the group mentality, they also have those experienced senior members that they already know they can ask the same questions. And they trust them because they know that I trust them.
And they trust you. So it stems from that. I suppose for the listeners, some of the kids and teens that you're working with, we say challenged. What kind of challenges do you find? Like ADHD, anxiety, behavior issues, low self-esteem, the lot? What does it tend to be? And then we've touched a lot on like the key things that we use. So the barbell has a lot of crossover to help us address this. But by the sounds of it, creating a non-judgmental space and a trusting environment where you can give those feedback loops is key.
I think to answer your question is it's like the behaviors are always vastly different. So like there's no one individual who's the same. I think behavior is addressed with patience. That's number one. You've got to be patient. Like they're going to mess around. They're going to do some crazy stuff. You can obviously be stern and like firm with them, but there needs to be some lenience there because once again, if you're too strict and mean, they're not going to come back. So like being patient with them, like they're messing around the ropes, they're playing on the pegboard, they're like not hurting anyone, but just like getting some of that extra energy out. That's fine. They'll be like, hey, like, let's get back to our set. Okay, we're back into it. Or like, I will distract them with like, let's chalk up for our next set so we're ready to go. Once they've got the chalk on their hands, I'm like, okay, let's do the deadlifts now. And like, they'll go back to doing the deadlifts. So from like some of
it's almost being one step ahead of them. Understanding that everything, we spoke about it before the podcast, everything's a feedback loop. And what behaviors are you trying to reward? Because that is the battle. Like we are dealing with the fact that they get constant rewards. And we now are just trying to create an environment where we can reward behaviors that are going to help them deal with life a little bit better. So deal with social interactions, deal with this, to deal with, like if we think about some of the kids that you work with, it's to deal with some of that social anxiety that they might have being in a new environment, or something maybe they've trained in the mornings and they haven't done an afternoon. Now all of a sudden they come to an afternoon and it's busier. Those familiar faces aren't there. Yeah,
and that's a challenge in itself. And I think one of the best things I tell the kids is if I was you, if I was your age and my parents were bringing me into this environment, like, and I had the same mindset I have now, I would do anything to maximize it. Like if I was in their position based on my upbringing and how I had to learn the hard way, everything through experience, trial and error and stuff, I would give anything to have someone like me be in charge of them. And that's something it's hard to explain to them because obviously they don't have the same values and feedback loops that I did when I was their age. So the best way I talk to them about that kind of stuff and like staying attentive and being like present in the sessions and coming into those new environments is by introducing them to the better people, by leading by example, by like making sure that they're having an overall good experience and consistently checking into them. I don't ask them what RPE was that set. I tried that. Like kids have no idea how to rate themselves. So I'm like, was that light, medium, or heavy? And I let them tell me. And I'm like, do you want to go up and weight? I let them decide. I feel like if you give them some choice, they feel a little bit more flexible. Okay, we've got squat and deadlift left. Which one do you want to do first? Oh, I want to do the deadlift first. Okay, let's go do that. Cool. Like we've done that. Now we have to do the squat. They're less hesitant. Whereas like we're gonna do squat now. Oh, I hate squat.
I suppose with an adult, you're dealing with decision fatigue because they're an adult, so they don't want to make decisions when they come to the gym. As we're with a kid, we think about when we were kids, like life's easy.
Yeah.
So like you want to be able to have choice and make a decision.
And that's as well. Like I think when we come to competition and getting them involved in the competition setting. The other thing we have to really guide these kids on is like, hey, like you said, they're used to getting participation medals and being told that they're brilliant at everything. They're used to being, ticked off no matter what the level of a commitment or like the effort they put in. They're used to all this stuff, like this reinforcement of like, hey, you can do whatever you want to do. So when they get to comp and the comp is strict. They don't care how old you are. There's a set of rules. You either get it or you don't. And then they don't. These kids don't know how to react. They've never actually been told, no, you're not good enough. And that's what I love about the powerlifting scene, because it's an opportunity for the kids to learn the real world
Treated
way.
just like everyone else.
Treated just like everyone else. And that's the thing. It's not...
A lot of the time, they get the labels like you spoke about when you had... when you were a kid, but with the labels comes fake sympathy or empathy is what I call it. Yeah.
I don't have to do this because
we frame it as toxic compassion, because it's like people will now interact with you in a way that makes them feel good, but doesn't actually do you good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is where this is the most valuable part of it, is when they actually get to that point where they compete. They have those humbling experiences, and it does upset them. Some of them
with people they trust.
Yeah, with people they trust. They do cry. They do get upset. They do get emotional. And these things are okay. Vice versa, I've had the opposite. One of my clients, Ryan, who's been doing it quite a long time now, nearly 2.5 years, he cried when he got his 120 back squat, which was at the time double body weight. 16 years old, young kid, and he's been working on this for years. His squat's been a weak movement for him. So for him to get it official in a competition, very overwhelming emotionally in a positive sense. And Tristan and I actually went over and complimented him, hey, you getting upset about this is a great thing, because it means you care. And
he's proud.
He's proud of himself. And that's what we were saying. We were you obviously care enough that you're so proud of your effort that you got emotionally invested. And that's why we're this is good. Don't ever feel bad, or don't hide this. Show it. And I do it to Dom all the time. Dom looked at me at the last comp. Emmett got his 65 kilo deadlift, and I fucking bawled my eyes out. And he looked at me. He's like, "You're such a softie." And I was like, because I'm invested in their performance, and I know if it was the opposite and he failed, he would be upset. So the fact that didn't happen, knowing that that's the negative out of the situation, I was so happy. I just I couldn't control it. So. And that's, I think, what the parents like as well. And that's something that I pride myself on, is that I am invested in their results. I'm not just doing it for the money. It is fun for me. And that's what I like about it. And that's the difference between me coaching that and CrossFit. I love CrossFit. I still love everything about it. But I feel it's a lot harder to get them involved. Whereas with powerlifting, it's easier to get them involved. It's easy for everyone to understand what's good and what's not. It's easy for people to know who's winning and who's not. So then, when you do it in a live setting, and kids don't get medals, the kids don't get this, the kids don't get that, then their parents come up to me and how do I explain this to them? Because they've never had to. How do I explain that my kid wasn't good enough to get a prize? And I just just say it simply, hey, it's not that you're not good enough. It's just that you're not good enough yet. And I was the people who got medals, they've been doing this far longer than you have. So it's you need to understand this is part of the process, and don't worry about medals, because at the end of the day, they're a piece of freaking metal that does nothing, right?
They're just a reward system. And I think the conversation needs to be less about the outcome and more about how they can accomplish the outcome. So it's if the kid wants the medal, then the conversation isn't about why didn't I get the medal? If that does happen and that interaction happens, it's okay, we need to go to 3 sessions a week, or we need to improve this. Just explain they want something, so just explain to them how to get it, rather than just giving it to them. And then it's on them.
Exactly. If they want it enough, then they'll put in the work. But sometimes it's as simple as just being hey, once again, back to the environment factor. We don't necessarily care about where you place. All we care about is that you're beating yourself every time. You're going up there because you're improving your previous total, not because you're trying to chase medals and accolades. And that's what the thing is if you get medals and accolades in the pursuit of doing said thing, proving your total, getting a new PR on a certain lift that you've been training for, that's just a bonus. But I'm we're not elite athletes. I'm not an elite athlete. My athletes aren't elite athletes. None of them are getting paid to do this. So it's the medals don't matter. It's actually what you do in the competition that matters, specifically how you handle yourself, how you act around other athletes, because we want to be inclusive. We go to comps and we encourage everyone, not just ourselves. And then finally, it's can you or did you do better than what you did before? And what can we take from this comp? So I come back to the gym, the next session. Okay, we identified that we're not squatting deep enough. The judges didn't like the depth we're going. we're going to focus on squatting deep now. Like that's going to be our main focus for the next cycle. So then they're like, wow, that didn't make me feel very good when I failed that squat. I should listen to Ty. Like we should start squatting deeper.
There's more value to what you say now.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they have a negative experience that they don't want to have again.
It's not even well, it's negative for them, but for me, it's like
it's not
positive reinforcement to know that like, hey, that's where we need to work on. This is why, and they can't. It's undeniable for them because they, like you said, they had that negative effect of not being able to get that ticked off rep, potentially getting a PR, whatever it was. So that they really buy into that. So that's what I think is really good.
So I think so a couple of things there, like accountability checkpoints is where that kind of falls under. In terms of like family involvement, is there a role that the parents play here as well? And do you find that is there some strategies or frameworks that they can use to help reinforce these positive behaviors at home?
Yeah, I think firstly and foremostly, like just understanding that what their kid is doing isn't inherently dangerous. This is what I try and this is the starting stage because the first hesitation from parents is safety, which is absolutely fine. Like you have every right to know that your kid is what they're doing, they're going to stay safe. Obviously, when we're going for personal bests and 1RMs, we can like the risk is a little bit higher. And that's why I like to save these for competition because in competition you have between 3 and 6 spotters for squat. You have 2 to 3 spotters for bench, and deadlift, like the bar starts on the ground, so it's pretty hard to hurt yourself. We emphasize technique being our number one thing. The technique needs to be important, and the reason why is because we don't want to hurt ourselves. So I say that to them so that they inherently remain safe. A lot of the time, parents think about, oh, like it's going to hurt my kid because it's going to stunt their growth, it's going to blow their back out, blah, 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 blah. And I understand these things. Like these are all valid concerns. But the one thing is when I explain to them, when they play rugby and they get tackled by someone, are you concerned about their health? I'm like, at least in this sport, there's no one out there to hurt them. They're the one that's going to be responsible.
They're in control.
Yeah, I'm responsible and they're responsible for themselves. And of course, we want to make sure that they're as safe as possible. But at least they don't have to worry about external factors. Like, it's not like the ceiling's going to fall on them.
This kid's twice as big as me, and he's going to hit me from a weird angle when I'm off balance.
Or he's got a vendetta out against me because like I scored a try and like I made him look like crap. So now he's going to try and it's not like kids are running around the gym with dumbbells trying to throw them at each other. Like he outlifted me, I'm going to throw my dumbbell at him. You know what I mean? Like so that variable isn't there. Not yet. Yeah. So I guess on the bright side, like inherently it is a lot more controlled, which means it's generally a little bit more safe. The second thing is obviously with parents, if they're not going to include themselves, they need to understand what their kids are doing. So, which at least with powerlifting, it's very straightforward. Like
come to some events, support them, be there,
and encourage it. Be like, hey, like this is really good for your overall health. Like what you're doing is you're doing it right. You need to make sure that when you're in your sessions, you're listening. And a lot of parents, good parents, that's exactly what they say, which I don't think I've had a parent that hasn't said that.
No, and I've had a lot of clients who you start with performance, and because performance becomes a priority, now they ask about food.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I want to get stronger. How can I fix my food? Now you have 12 and 13-year-olds who are going to school with meal prep.
Yeah.
Like rather than eating out of the tuck shop. That's going to give them a huge advantage.
Exactly. And I don't think it's necessarily something that you ever have to bring up. They normally naturally bring it up because they realize like, wow, my training's really good. So like, how else can I maximize other places in my life? So, and that's a natural conversation. That's the same thing I had with my brother when he was going through his up and coming process. We didn't even speak about food for an entire year. And then eventually he came around and he was like, hey, for the next comp, I want to be under 110 kilos. So how do we get there? I was like, cool, let's take a look at your nutrition. Let's talk about it. Now he's invested organically because he's now interested in
his decision.
His decision, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't push it on the kids unless they ask. And that's the same thing. Like kids are like, most of the biggest issue with the kids, the majority of the ones I deal with is they're usually not good at putting weight on. Very rarely it's the other way around. Kids we deal with, most of them are too skinny.
I see that too. It's optimized. A lot of the food is optimized for convenience, which just means it comes at the cost of well-balanced nutrients. So the kids just aren't getting exposure to enough protein. Like they're not getting exposure to enough calories a lot of the time, especially for how their bodies are changing. And I remember even when we were at school, like I would not eat my lunch because I only had 45 minutes and I wanted to kick the footy for 45 minutes.
Yeah, you
I was like,
prioritize that.
I'm not sitting for 10 minutes to eat my food. I would rather starve.
Or like, I don't want to eat my food so that I can kick the footy better. I don't want to
Yeah.
feel like sluggish and like full, and like then all my mates are on the oval kicking the footy. Now I'm missing out. So it's like that does play a big factor.
I mean, it's a little bit different now. Kids now, I don't want to eat my food because I need more game time on my iPad.
iPad or laptop or whatever. Yeah. So
But it's still the same thing. It's just replace the
and that's it. And that's
the
what I mean.
task.
I felt like as well, like, and this is probably like maybe my final point with the accessibility of it as well, is as they get older, generally what we find is most adults opt out of sport and then they opt into the gym because the gym's a bit more convenient for life. Sport is a bit more come in on Tuesday and Thursday for training, games on Saturday.
And it's less adaptable, as where training is very adaptable
Yeah.
to your lifestyle. So
Yeah.
you can move it from an afternoon session to a morning session to a lunchtime session. You can go from a conditioning bias program to a strength bias program because your joints are a little bit beat up from running or whatever. Like now you've been sitting too much, so your back can't tolerate the hinging. You can change it now to a little bit more machine work where you're not doing as much compound stuff. So it does allow inherently a lot more consistency.
Yeah.
And you definitely want kids to understand how to go to the gym and use the gym from a younger age, because there is going to be a point in their life where they're not going to have sport.
Yeah, or sport doesn't interest them anymore, and at least they have that background skill already. They're aware of what does what, and they've already mastered the hardest thing, which is the barbell. And I think that's where a lot of these kids have an advantage. Like I said, when I was growing up, no one taught me how to squat, no one taught me how to bench, no one taught me how to deadlift. These are things I learned on the fly, but I can tell you now, very poorly to start off with.
Yeah.
And then as I've developed over the years, it's gotten better and better. But imagine if someone was there to teach me how to do it right the first time.
It's a huge competitive advantage. And I suppose to wrap up, what we're talking about here is balancing praise versus pushing goals. Need both. So the feedback loop needs to be there. We just need to be careful with over praising or praising the wrong things.
Yeah.
And we define that by desired outcome. So if the kid does have behavior issues, right, then it does change the way we incorporate. Even though the frameworks might be the same with training, the feedback loops might change.
Yeah.
So you might teach that kid, like you said, to be a little bit more involved with other people at the gym and try and be a little bit more supportive and aware of their progression, and use those strategies to help them develop a little bit more care.
Yeah.
Which then translates into other behaviors.
And they don't necessarily need to understand the severity of what someone's doing. So let's say, like, for example, Tristan's going for a new bench press PR. They don't need to understand the severity of like what he's going for. They just need to understand that he's going for something that's new and scary and risky. And it's good for them to watch that whole ordeal, whether it's positive or negative. So whether he fails it or he gets it, because then it exposes them to that whole like risk scenario where it's like, he's either going to get it or he's not. And it's like,
and then in a month's time, they see him doing it again. Where it's like, oh, like it clicks. Like, hey, he never gave up or stopped.
yeah, he got it. He got it this time, and he was like cheering. I remember when he didn't get it, and like how upset he was. And it's like, you see that from the senior, the people you look up to, and it's like it makes it more relevant to you. And then like on the other side of it too, it just shows how much support is for everyone. Because it's like, well, when I did my 1RM, Tristan came over and supported me. So now he's doing his 1RM. I know I'm middle of my session, but Ty's asked me to come over and support him. So now it's like we've done both ways. And it's like they just stand there and they cheer him on, they fist bump. And then as from Tristan, like, oh, wow, this youth athlete, this young guy is watching me lift. He's more inspired to try harder. Even if it doesn't mean he leads to success, it just means that like he's fist bumped this guy. He's included him in his like journey to him progressing. He's more invested now. So it's like, and then like we see Tristan at the comps, or we see Tristan in the gym, and it's like, once again, identifiable figure. He's a safe figure, and it allows me as the coach to then take a bit of stress off myself. I can be like, Tristan, you can organize the kids at this comp to make, get them to warm up and stuff. And the parents trust it because they're like, wow, he's a senior member. He's good at what he does. He's very approachable. My kid's been around him before. I trust that guy as well. And it's like, so it allows me to then delegate to my senior members, and like they love it. They love the extra responsibility.
Yeah, it gives them a bit of responsibility.
But it's because they also like, that means in their head like, oh, Tyler values me enough that he will trust me with this task. And I think that's good too, because then it's like, I do trust their feedback as well. Like, they've been doing it for a decent amount of time. They are also doing what I'm telling them to do. When they give me feedback, I listen. And it's the same with the kids. Feedback, I listen. Like, I didn't like that. I didn't like the way that felt. Oh, my knee's hurting. Okay, like, or like I had a rough day at school. I'm really tired. Cool. Let's adjust the session.
Let's pivot the session, yeah. I suppose if anyone wants to get in touch and get started with training with you, where do they find you? How do they get in contact?
Best couple of ways. One is obviously through our website, unboundathletic.com.au/personal training. We can start there, even if it's just a discussion, conversation. Other than that, Instagram, you can always DM me, Tyler J. Hamilton, and we can organize something. I'm a busy man, but I definitely have slots for people, and it's just about working out what's best for your son or daughter. No age is too young, I guess. I mean, there is too young. I guess, like, you know, anything under 5 is probably too young. But anything over 5, I'd probably be absolutely 100% on getting us to work on something. And we would just start super slow and easy. You're absolutely more than welcome to come as the parent. Unless your kid doesn't want you to be there, then it's a great opportunity for you as well to work out while they're working out. And that can be awesome too. So it's not one of those scenarios where as a parent, you have to sit on the sidelines and watch. You can also join in, or you can even, you know, watch a session. I have options, and there's definitely clients I do train who mum and son train together. You know, dad and daughter train together in that sense, where it's like, it's a dual session, and you get lots out of it, they get lots out of it, you're both enjoying it, having fun, you've got something to bond over, and I don't mind it either. Like, I think it's a cool dynamic. So
there you have it, guys. There's Ty crossing the parallels between the barbell and the progression of life skills in young teens. Thank you, Ty, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Cool.